Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I have the beautiful Jen Parker from Real Vision Life Coaching. Jen is a dedicated stress and anxiety coach on a mission to empower individuals to take control of their lives by rewiring their minds for success and reducing stress to prevent burnout. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen. And I think that last word, it nails the NDIS industry in the burnout. So I would love for you to share a bit about that, what you do, how you help people with burnout, overcoming stress.
Yes, well, thank you so much for the introduction and thank you for having me on your podcast, Vanessa. I'm super excited to have a chat to you today. So, I'm a stress and anxiety coach. I went through my own burnout professionally. I was a social worker in hospitals, and anyone who has been in a hospital environment knows that there's a lot going on. So I had my own burnout experience from that. And then I thought, oh, leaving the job, that's easy. And then I had my whole journey of having an autistic child with complex communication and sensory needs. So then I really had to support myself around stress and anxiety every single day. And that's now how I support women to avoid burning themselves out so they can stay in those industries that they're so passionate about, such as the carers and the workers in the NDIS.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your background and your story there. So, how do you suggest NDIS business owners, how can they cultivate a positive and supportive team culture in this space, in the NDIS industry?
Yeah. Well, I think we've got to understand that we're in an industry where we're working with people who are, it's quite difficult at times. We're working with people who may not have all the skills relating to mental health. So I think what's really important for people to understand, Vanessa, is when we're in the helping industries, we're at high risk of burnout. So if we don't look after our own mental health, our own emotional health, and we're helping others, we're going to take on their overwhelm, their stress, and it's going to make the job harder. You're going to be more reactive when your clients are, their needs are quite challenging. You're going to be coming from a really highly reactive state. And that's not what you want. You want to be able to respond, not react, if that makes sense. So you want to come from that. And when we're in these industries, healthcare, community services, people who are sort of in that frontline industries, 84% of healthcare workers are reported burnout in 2022.
Wow, that
And
is
so
huge.
it is absolutely quite high. And so that was 86% in 2021 and 80% in 2020. I think what we've got to just really be mindful, if you are someone who is a leader in the community services space, such as you help those in the NDIS sector, it is so important to start prioritizing how you're going to support your staff around their emotional well-being and making sure that they can do that. So then your quality and your service delivery is so much more effective as well. And it also reduces things like absenteeism in your staff, the morale. So people's morale in the workplace goes up. People are more productive and they're happier. So if we make sure we're sort of addressing it at that core root and really just being transparent, being open with your staff and having those, not just having a procedure on self-care, is actually giving them the time and resources available as well to support your staff.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important. And I feel you sort of touched on it there. If we are going into a working environment, say as a support worker, and we are not in the right headspace ourselves, then what sort of energy or vibes are we putting out for our clients? And what effects are we creating and sort of inflicting on our own participants if we're going into this space in the wrong mind frame or not in that positive, well looked after state of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've got to understand is like people pick up on body language. So maybe they don't understand all of the words that you're actually expressing, But generally, we pick up, like, I don't know what the specific statistic is, but it's around 80% of how communication is deciphered or understood is nonverbal body language. So people are reading you, and it's about, if you have already come to a client's house and you're already feeling like, oh gosh, I'm late, and you might be, just as I said earlier, you're coming from that really reactive state. So something that small wouldn't really bother you is now like a really big thing, right? So when we can sort of just touch base with ourselves, work out what's happening, identify what's happening within ourselves, identify how stress is showing up, those really early symptoms of how it's showing up, and knowing how to regulate our nervous system, then when we go to our clients' homes, we notice that it could escalate some of our stress. We know how to support ourselves. And we also, we're helping the client co regulate their nervous system as well.
So, what advice would you give to NDIS business owners who have a team who maybe haven't implemented any kind of mental health supports in their business? What sort of things would you suggest that an employer could be implementing in their business to support their staff?
Well, a good place to start is actually connecting in with your staff, asking them, giving them the voice, and rather than sort of assuming what they need and what they want, is actually making space where they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel like their ideas are expressed, and you're not just going to be like, oh, sometimes people don't share with leaders because they're scared that they're going to lose their job, or they're scared that they're going to be seen as if they're being too vulnerable, or too, this is really difficult for me because you're giving me a really high caseload and you're not giving me the resources to support. They're worried that there are going to be other implications. So I think it's really important for leaders, for managers, that if you don't have anything in place yet, it's so imperative to start putting something in place. Having those conversations with staff, maybe, people feel really empowered when you're actually asking them, hey, tell us what's happening, but also that they feel safe, that you've built this level of safety. And that could be through something where it might be a team building thing where they don't realize that they're building that rapport, but they're also realizing, oh, these are some of the challenges that I'm noticing in the workplace. So it's first of all asking permission and asking them. And then it's having, either someone like myself coming into the workplace and providing some education and support and coaching, or constantly just providing those resources, because a lot of the people you have available in a lot of organizations, but people don't know things are available. You almost have to tell them, not in a newsletter, but you have to make it become so transparent and not just like written somewhere that no one's ever going to read a newsletter. Work out a way how people know about it and that it's available and they feel safe to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. In regards to having somebody come into the workplace like yourself, is that to be providing training or coaching to employers or to their team as well?
Well, I think it's really important that if you are a manager, it probably needs to start with you, quite honestly, because your staff are observing how you're interacting. They're noticing how, oh gosh, they're a bit stressed today. And sharing another stat, like how a manager walks into the room determines the productivity of the staff by 86%. So that was a nursing research paper. And I think that could apply to all backgrounds. If we really think about it, we can go into a workplace and go, oh, something doesn't feel right. So if the leader is not managing their stress at a core deep level, their employees, their staff, their team, they know. You don't have to say it. People can feel it. They can see how you're interacting, right? It may be that you don't want to share every aspect of your life, but you have to have the tools to actually be managing what's happening to you. So I think it starts with a leader, and then you can sort of lead by how you're supporting yourself and then giving your team some accessibility as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's also important to, as a leader, like you said, you don't need to share all of the details or go into great depths, but it's also perfectly okay to maybe turn around to your team and go, hey guys, just a heads up, I'm having a really rough day today. I've got stuff going on at home, or even just I'm having a rough day today. And that's
Mm.
probably all that really needs to be said. And that can help on so many different levels. One, them realizing that you as their manager are human as well, just acknowledging how you're feeling and giving them that heads up to not feel like they're walking on eggshells of what the hasn't been spoken. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like you don't have to share every aspect of your life, but you can just be super transparent and just say, had a bit of a rough night, or there's a few things that have happened. I'm okay. I will check in with you later. This is what I need to do first. And then I'll come and, you know, always tell people how you want to be communicated, how you want to be supported. People can't read your mind generally. So if you're a leader who doesn't realize, but you like to do things yourself, you're a good problem solver, and you just need time to process. So when I'm just getting bombarded and I haven't had time to process, that's quite overwhelming for me. So it might be that you're just having a bit of a rough morning. I need five, I just need to have my morning coffee and then I'll come out and see everyone. Is that all right? As simple as that, and just keep it simple. I would just keep it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you share any tips around the things that employers could notice or be mindful of to be noticing that might be signs that their staff aren't coping?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important that even if we think we're not stressed, it might be still that our body is perceiving that we're in a stress state, right? So everything that your mind might be like, oh my God, I've got this deadline to do. I've got to see all these clients. I've got client notes to write. Your body is responding to that. So then it's going to go into a stress response. So for an employer, everyone's going to respond differently to different stimuli and situations, right? So some people you may notice that it's the very small things that are triggering them, the everyday tasks that are not a new project, but you might notice that, oh, it might be that they're quite triggered or reactive. So they're going into a fight response, but sometimes they might do nothing. So rather than going, oh gosh, why haven't they done that? That might just be indicating that they're actually feeling so overwhelmed that they're paralyzed with all of the complexities of what they need to get done and they don't know where to do. They're in a freeze response.
Where to
Then
start?
they don't know where to start. So I think it's just being really mindful if you are a leader, just noticing if it's those everyday tasks, and you get to know your team in when they're in a calm, happy state, and you want to get to know them when they're in a when things are asked of them. So I think it's just starting to observe that. And if you're really finding that difficult, that's why having someone like a consultant like myself come in and provide those supports to you. But it's just observing how people are sort of interacting. And if it's those daily things, that might indicate that it's showing a bit more, or even how they're reacting. They might be quite agitated, snappy, defensive, or even there might be increased conflict within the workplace, more drama as well. That might be sort of showing a bit of a sign that there's a bigger issue that needs to be addressed.
Let's pause for a moment to talk about resources that can help you scale your NDIS business. Have you downloaded my free NDIS Business Growth Blueprint yet? It's a step-by-step guide designed to help you simplify compliance, streamline your operations, and grow your business with confidence. And if you're looking for more personalised support, my Bestie in Business membership is exactly what you need. You'll get group coaching, virtual co-working sessions, and tailored strategies to help you thrive in the NDIS space. You can find the links to both the freebie and the membership in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode of NDIS Business Breakthrough with Vanessa Norman. I guess some of the things that I can look back on that I noticed as well was, obviously you mentioned this earlier, absenteeism, running late, so arriving to work a bit late. And like you say, it's getting to know them on a normal day to day. And then when these things start to pop up, you're like, oh, that's out of the ordinary. That's not like you to be late to work, or that's not like you to be having so many days off. Those kinds of differences in personality, not acting like their normal selves.
Yes. And also, if you are drawn to the helping industry, you're probably a very empathic person. And so, people who are very empathic, they take on other people's energy. They feel like it's happened to them. They're people pleasers. So they over deliver and they often forget about themselves. They may not even have lunch because, gosh, I've got to be at this next client's house. We need to really provide the time and resources to give them what they actually need, meeting those basic human needs. Have they had enough hydration, food? And while it sounds super simple, when we're so stressed and overwhelmed, we're in survival, we're not thinking of, have I drunk enough water? Am I eating well? We're just thinking of just trying to get through the day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some other things that I found was being able to just talk about it. Like if you'd had a bad day, being able to reach out to a coworker or to a mentor within your workplace and just debrief if something has happened at work potentially, or even if there's something going on personally, having somebody that you can debrief with and sort of get things off your chest, we found really, really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. Like having that, and everyone's so different. Some people just want someone just to be there. They don't need the verbal words, but sometimes it's just knowing someone's there and they hear you and see you. I think sometimes we get caught up in, oh, I don't know what to say, so that we don't say anything. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm here. If you want to chat, that's okay. Do you want to grab a coffee? Let's just do that. Let's get out of the office and enjoy the sun. Because sometimes if you're working in offices, you forget what time it is and it really can stuff up your natural rhythms as well in your body. So I think it's important just to get out, sit outside, and maybe just sit with the person. Have lunch outside, enjoy the sunlight.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's not so much about needing to get advice or be able to solve a problem for somebody. It can literally just be an ear to listen.
Yeah, it's just knowing someone's there and someone cares and someone just acknowledging and validating what you're going through. And sometimes we don't want to be fixed, we just want to be heard. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, from an employee's perspective, what recommendations or suggestions would you give to somebody who maybe is struggling with their mental health or are feeling burnt out? Maybe they feel like they're working too many hours, or the particular clients that they've got, because that can happen too. Some clients can be much more mentally draining than others. What would you suggest for employees who are feeling like that for them to do?
yeah, I think it's starting small. So, something that I teach my clients inside my program is sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, we're like, oh gosh, I've got to like change everything at once. But simplicity is actually really powerful. So, actually, starting with really small habits called micro habits, where you have maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 2 minutes to regulate your nervous system. So, before you actually go and do a shift and see that client that might upset you might do just a couple of box breathing. You might sort of breathe in for 4 counts, hold at the top for 4, slowly exhale for 4, and so forth. So it's really about, if anything, just slowing down the breath. And you can even do that while you're at a red traffic light and just sort of check in with yourself and just notice how you're breathing. Am I breathing upper respiratory or am I breathing with my diaphragm? How do I feel in my body? And just sort of slow that down. You're already breathing, but you can breathe a little bit more so you're in that calmer state. And you do have time for 1 minute. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I would start that. If you do that every day, you're going to start noticing a change in how you're feeling, and you'll go, oh gosh, I need more. I feel good. So then you can sort of stack on that.
Yeah, wonderful. And so, how would you suggest employers can handle the different team dynamics when there's such a mix of personalities and different working styles?
Yeah, I think it's about getting to know, like, you're not going to host something with like 200 people. You might want to sort of provide smaller, impersonal, it may not even be a training, it might just be more of a get together, or just so people feel heard and seen, to get to know people's personality, their behaviors, etc. And there's different sort of tools people can sort of use with that. profiling that psychologists use to sort of understand how different people in the workplace operate and some of the things that they might be really good at, so their strengths, and some of the things that they might need assistance with. And that way, okay, this person needs, they might be really impulsive, but they get things done. So when we know our strengths and our weaknesses, we can have a better idea of how to support that person as well. We're coming from more of a proactive, solution focused approach.
Yeah, awesome. How do you cultivate a positive and supportive team culture?
Yeah. So I think it's really just being transparent. It's being open. Positive isn't about denying people's experiences and going, oh, only feel positive, because that can sort of be denying the emotions that you're experiencing. Your emotions are actually indicating what's really happening for you as well. So it's not about denying those emotional reactions. It's just about sort of hearing where people are. Can you just repeat the question again? Make sure I've sort of ticked all of the boxes there.
So, how do you cultivate a positive and supportive team environment or team
Yeah.
culture?
Yeah. So I think it's just being super transparent. I think a little bit real in some ways. Like, as I said earlier, like showing up, we're all human. You know, some days we're going to thrive, some days we're not going to be. People want to feel you're human and how you're coping. It's about having those resources. It may be that you're having a really tough time. How do you tell people in that workplace that, you know, I'm dealing with a few complexities in my home life that are actually, if you told your employer, they might have some compassion and understanding. So, to me, cultivating a positive environment is really about being there for people of where they are, not where you are, but being where they are and just holding space for them and what they need and providing the resources. So, if we're talking about, like, a lot of the time in self care and healthcare and community services, self care is very loosely used, or it's, I don't think it's really truly done effectively, because if it was, we wouldn't have 86% of people burning out in the healthcare industry. So there is a huge area that needs growth. So to me, it's about really hearing people where they are, supporting people, giving people the time to be able to do their job and not going, oh gosh, we're under the pump. It's not the employee's responsibility if you don't have the resources. Like, if you're going, oh gosh, we're cutting funding and you need to see more clients, that may have an effect on their workload and how they're feeling, right? So I think it's such a thing that it's going to be hard to tackle in a few minutes in a podcast episode. But I think it's just being really mindful of, how do you want your workplace to feel when you walk in? It's also being really mindful that if you have someone in your workplace who is incredibly toxic, I remember hearing a podcast episode of how contagious that is. That actually does more damage to your workplace. So if you've got people who are super toxic, they're just putting the morale down, you need to look at that as an employer as well, because you probably find that when you have really positive people who want to change, who want to make a difference, who adopt really a growth mindset, they're the people who are going to help your environment. So you need good team. If you have that one person, it spreads,
Sure
it's like
does.
a
Yeah.
virus. So you need to look at that. It will save you thousands, if not millions, in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that from personal experience. So, yeah, thank you. I think you've shared a lot of knowledge and things to look at and different perspectives on things, both as an employer and as an employee, which is really lovely. So thank you so much for joining us. And if people or employers do want to reach out to you for your consulting services, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, probably the best way to find me is on my website. So, people can go to www.realvisionlifecoaching.com.au. I'm sure it'll be noted in the show notes. And I also have a program that I run 4 times a year called Chaos to Calm. So, that's a good way for people to start their journey around stress and overwhelm as well.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen, and sharing your wealth of knowledge.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.